The opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of Invisible Wounds or Wightman. Please be aware that the content of Fireside Chats with Deborah may contain sensitive subjects such as suicide, grief, violence, PTSD, and other mental health conditions. By discussing these subjects, we will decrease stigma, bring awareness, and hope. If you need support, please reach out to trusted contacts, family, friends, call your doctor, or go to the closest emergency department. Call helplines such as Boots on the Ground at 1-833-677-BOOT. We hope this series helps build self-confidence in you. On today's show, Colleen Kamps, Education and Curriculum Development Coordinator, TEMA Foundation. Fireside Chats with Deborah is sponsored by Leslie Motors of Hairston, Walkerton, and Wingham. Visit lesliemotors.com to learn more.
Flipping this narrative, starting to think about the real energetic, metabolic, biological cost of not taking care of ourselves, I think is really important. And thinking about it as facilitating performance versus competing with performance, I think is sort of the next wave of optimizing human potential.
The reason why it's so important to be aware of PTSD, first and foremost, because it's more prevalent than people realize. People's trauma and distress, you can think of them as like invisible injuries. And just because you can't see it right away doesn't mean it isn't affecting people negatively. If people have been hurt in their history and that hasn't been healed, it hasn't been able to be resolved, especially if it hasn't been able to be healed or resolved, it affects their present day too. So everything gets harder. So someone who seems to be really struggling and you can't understand why, it's often because they've had a history that's been pretty challenging. We often tend to ascribe lots of meaning to an individual and much less to their context, and the context really does matter. And so being more aware of the prevalence of PTSD and trauma and the role of distress in people's lives can help us both have a more fair view of the people around us, a more compassionate view of people around us, but also of ourselves. Very rarely does a human go through life unscathed by challenging situations. And so even if not complete PTSD, just being mindful of the impact of stressful situations is helpful. And being especially mindful of people who've gone through situations distressing enough to lead to a break in trust with themselves, with others in the world, which is one of the key components of PTSD. It's not a symptom. It shows up in really harsh beliefs about self, others, in the world. But the underlying thing is a breach in trust in relationship to self, others, in the world.
Welcome. It's my pleasure today to introduce Colleen Kamps from TEMA Foundation.
Hi, Deborah.
Hi. Very happy that you were able to make it over today.
I love that you invited us. It's awesome.
Thank you. So maybe we can begin by telling the audience who you are and maybe what you do. Yeah. And not necessarily with TEMA, because that's a bit of a different story.
Yeah. I've been in the helping field for over 4 decades. It's amazing, I'm only 42, but I try to say that. 45 years in the helping field, and mostly focused on trauma and suicidality and mental health challenges, and for years abuse and trauma. So I have my own private practice in Toronto, but I also teach at a community college, at Centennial College in Toronto, and then TMU, which is the old Ryerson, and then I developed a trauma and suicide program at Simon Fraser. So I do that for first responders. So I do that online, and then I also do the TEMA Foundation as well. And I have a young son. He's 27. I think he's young, but I raised him by myself, and he makes me proud. He's starting a job finally next week, and so I'm excited. He's got his career going, and
maybe he'll move out someday.
That's right. He's already long gone. He left a long time ago, but he's so that's kind of who I am. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're a busy lady with lots of experience. Have you always done outpatient or outside of like an inpatient setting?
Yeah, I've been everywhere. Like I've worked with, most it's like in private practice, but I've also been in child welfare. I've been in consulting in school settings. I do a lot of training and consultation, different places. So yeah, I have my hands in a lot of different things because I just love this work. I love helping people.
So, just once again, you've always been in private practice, but branched out into various different things.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's good. Lots of experience and lots of training, and the fact that 3 different colleges that you've been involved in is very good work. Yeah. And then developing your own program. Can you expand on that one a bit?
The
course that you said that.
Oh yeah, it was great actually. It's a first responder course that Simon Fraser took on. Boy, I think it's like well past 10 years that we've been doing it, and so it was from the inception. And so I created the trauma and suicide course as part of a series of courses that are offered through part-time learning for first responders across the country and even U.S. Actually, I had someone in New Zealand one time take it. So it's a great program to help support the men and women that are working the front lines and to get some extra courses under their belt and prepare them for the work that they do. And a lot of times they're peer supporters or,
So is this a accredited course that they get through the university?
It is it's a credited course towards the actual program, but it's not a diploma or a degree. It's CE courses really. But, yeah.
Right. All right.
Yeah. It's a great program.
Do you get? I'm just curious. Do you get many firefighters registered?
Lots of firefighters.
You do?
Actually, mostly firefighters.
Really?
Probably common is firefighters, police, but you know what? It's really expanding because we get the corrections, paramedics, police, firefighters, communications. But recently, like I probably teach it 1 to 2 times a year when they run it, and recently we've had coroner. We're getting nurses. We're getting people who are working with street youth or the homeless. So it's really opening up to. Yeah.
Just it might not even be relevant, but is it research based? Like it's giving data about the long term.
They are looking at that for sure. Yeah, they've been. It's a great course because it's got a series of different topics that they have that they cover. So.
No, that's great. Good. And so if somebody, just in case, if somebody's interested in learning more about that one.
You just have to go Simon Fraser University First Responder course. It'll come up.
Okay.
It'll come up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And the reason primarily that I asked you to come here is because of TAMA. I'm familiar with, as we spoke earlier, familiar with the organization. For many years, you and I are. I know you've got a younger son, so I'm probably older than you.
Probably not, but I had him later.
Okay, well, regardless, I'm familiar with TEMA, but it has morphed or changed over the years.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us about that organization? Because some people might not even be aware of it.
Yeah, thank you. TEMA's been around for many years. It was called the TEMA Contra Memorial Trust Fund before. We rebranded in 2019. And are going strong and are very excited about the work that we're doing. Our focus really is on making mental health healthier. We've always had a strong foundation around first responders and frontline workers, public safety personnel. We've really changed the definition because we're seeing more and more that we've got our first responders, but then we also have a lot of other people that we've been forgetting about that are still in the response area. They're the what I call the other responders, because we're talking about our journalists. We're talking about even tow truck drivers if they're coming upon an accident, and coroners and funeral directors. So a lot of people that are being impacted by trauma, and our goal is to create curriculum, train. We develop peer support teams. We've been really expanding a lot in the area of not first responders, but some frontline organizations that need mental health training, and so we give it to them, and we also then create opportunities for them to be able to give back so that we can continue to provide some cost-effective or even no cost to our first responders, and being able to continue to keep them healthy and safe.
Oh, sounds good. So some people won't know the beginning of the TEMA, if you could.
Yeah, so TEMA is an actual name. It's not an acronym. TEMA Contour, and she was a real person. And I think it's almost 25 years ago, at the young age of 25 herself, when I had made a career for herself in fashion and went off to Toronto. She lived in Nova Scotia, and she went to Toronto to start her career and was there a couple of years, and brutally murdered by a young man who had been accidentally let out of prison, was in a halfway house and wasn't even there, I think, 12 hours. And he took her life, and one of the paramedics who responded was really impacted by this. And back then we didn't really look at post-traumatic stress with our first responders and really didn't understand it. And so he lasted just a few more years after that, and as part of his healing, he approached the Contours, who are still in Nova Scotia, and that's Howard Contour approached him. That's the brother of TEMA. And they started this charity, and so they were able to move along, and like I said, we've changed, we've evolved into something different, and I think better and more effective, and we're all over the place. We've got lots of work that we're doing in Nova Scotia area, Newfoundland, we're in obviously Ontario, and we continue to grow. Yeah. So.
And you explained that the organization itself, it's still in Nova Scotia, like the... I've got an office in Toronto that's for TEMA as well, and we also have one we don't have an office, but we do a lot of work there, so that's where our CEO lives right now, and that's where the Contours are as well, so, and I've been... Okay, now, sorry, the CEO is... Our CEO, which is Cheryl Matthews, is the new CEO of our organization, which she came on board 2 years ago this October. And then, so she's out of Nova Scotia, she's in Halifax area, as are the Contours. So we're still doing lots of work there. It's a standing joke right now because I spend so much time there. Sometimes it's welcome home and how is Toronto, right? So, but it's... That doesn't sound too hard to take. No, not when it's Halifax, so it's beautiful. Yeah. Lovely. So if you're having do you still have these? I'm sorry, I'm thinking of the word. Do you still have seminars that you offer to? Yes, so we were known years ago for our education days, and so we continued to do education days, and we actually had the first one in Ontario since 2018. We had it in Pickering, and we had 375 people come, which was awesome. And how we set up our days is it's a full day. Everybody spends the time together, and it's multiple kind of speakers on different topics about their healing journeys. And this year we called it from impossible to I am possible, wellness and resilience. And so we had 375 that showed up in Pickering, which was awesome. And then we ran it in Nova Scotia, in Halifax, just the beginning of May, and we had 600. And we did it in 2 movie theaters, which sounds crazy, but we had 2 movie theaters going, and we had the speakers coming and going from different ones, and it was fabulous. And our keynote was actually, we did something very unique this year with our keynote, in that
we had Tyler Smith, one of the Humboldt bus crash survivors, and he came and spoke. And it was a look at, and I felt it was really important. First responders rarely get feedback on what they've done and the difference that they've made in people's lives. And this was a way for him to thank all the people that saved his life. And it's a horrible story, obviously, but he continues to speak on mental health and has an opportunity to be able to thank the people that took care of him. So.
Awesome. Yeah. So with your seminars, it's kind of like a lecture theater?
Yeah, it's just a big gathering, and it's people coming up and sharing their stories and sharing the tips on their stories, because, and people walk out with something different every time. You've always got someone that you kind of grasp onto and can really, it's really about trying to get an opportunity to have a lived experience that's similar, or it's that aha moment for someone, right? And we're all about, we want to provide as much as we can for people to get the support and to continue their healing journey, and maybe they'll find a tip that will be helpful.
Right. And how do you advertise your conferences? Social
media is the big thing, and we've got a social media person, which is great, and we make so many connections around the peer support work that we're doing, and we're doing lots of peer support programs across the different sectors in first response, and so it's that, and it's just drawing on. We've got volunteers obviously in our organization, so it's just continuously drawing on that. And
so somebody will take the course and then they come back and they do volunteer hours?
We've got people that will volunteer for us. Yeah, there's all different, and it's whether they take the course or not, right? But yeah.
And this course is how many hours then?
The education day, it's a full day. It's a full day of people learning just from everyone else, right? So we have opportunity to. It's a full day that people join. It's like a training. It's like a conference, right? We just call it Education Day, and it's a time to connect with other people in similar situations, to hear from others. And it's not about, getting re-traumatized, hopefully, because our focus really is on wellness and resilience. And everybody has something to give, and it's amazing just hearing some of these powerful stories that these men and women share, and yeah, so it's exciting. It's exciting, the work that we're doing.
That's good. And once again, so it's advertised on your website? You've got a website?
Yeah, we've got a website. It's tema.foundation, that's it. Well, www.tema.foundation. Everyone wants to add a CA or a comment. It's not. It's just tema.foundation. And, we have lots of tips and strategies on there as well. We've got PPE for Your Mind, which we created when during COVID. We had just relaunched and then COVID happened, so I'm thinking we can't just sit around doing nothing, so created a 4-part series of helping our first responders. It's just online. It's they can watch it, they can listen to it, and it's just, again, 4 little videos of strategies that they can do around just keeping yourself healthy and safe, and that it's okay not to be okay, and just strategies that they can use.
This is PPE for Your Mind. To first responders of any kind, stay protected with PPE for Your Mind.
When you respond to the call of duty, it is important that you are at your best, both for you and the people you help every day. That's why it's important to know poor mental health is a risk factor for chronic physical conditions, and people with chronic physical conditions are at risk of developing poor mental health, which is why we all need to create opportunities to enhance protective factors, reduce risk factors, and better understand both the mental and physical health aspects. We need to build our resilience. This 4-part series is designed to help first responders relieve anxiety and stress during an emergency pandemic. Right now, we are all in the fight of our lives. The world has had a reawakening, and we all once again realise who and what really matters in our lives. With the recent pandemic our world is facing, we need to educate and protect ourselves and those around us, not only our physical health, but our mental health as well. That's why in this crucial course, we teach you tools and strategies that help make your mental health healthier. After all, you've joined this field to work for a reason. You wanted to make a positive impact on other people's lives. This course is an appreciation of your dedication to making a difference to helping others, often putting their needs before your own.
Just had a 90-year-old patient come in and they said to me, you're worth your weight in gold right now. You're very much on the front line and we need you more than ever. You're not alone. The people are absolutely behind you.
The Tema Foundation provides hope for your future because through the work you do, you provide that same hope to so many. We help you reinforce and galvanise your strength to deal with the unimaginable situations you deal with every day. Through all 4 parts in what we call PPE for your mind, you learn about how the way you think, feel and act impacts everyone around you. So the positive impact of making your mental health healthier extends well beyond yourself. Because a healthier mind can help us achieve a healthier body.
Course overview.
These are different times, so we need to prepare in different ways. That's why we have broken this course down into manageable pieces. Make sure to watch all 4 parts so we can climb towards a brighter future together. Part 1. Knowing when you're not okay. Part 2. Strategies to relieve anxiety and stress. Part 3. The Tema model of support. Part 4. Caring for important people in your life. In the time of a pandemic, knowledge should still spread. As you prepare to deal with the difficult situations you face every day, with these 4 critical parts, we are here to help make your mental health healthier. Understanding these links between our mental and physical well-being will help us achieve that. We care about your resilience, the ability to cope with what you see and hear. We care about the impact the workload makes on you and the impact you make on others. We care about your balance between life and work, friends and family, self and others. We pull each other up through the tough times. And these are tough times. With this course, we learn to turn fear, stress and anxiety into courage, hope and resilience. If you're a healthcare worker or first responder of any kind on the front lines battling COVID-19 or any other pandemic, please register today for Part 1 of the Tema Foundation PPE for Your Mind.
Mental health education for first responders, frontline workers, and healthcare professionals.
Is there anything else that you think people would want to know about Tema?
I think, I think we're really starting to grow in many different areas and really pushing the envelope around organizations and also our first responders, right? So we've recently, and we're really excited about this, is in September and then just in February, had an opportunity to, Halifax Fire allowed me an opportunity to go in for 2 days with the new recruits during their training, so 16 weeks of training, to do 2 days of mental health training, because these men and women are there doing the physical stuff and learning how to do what they have to do. But, I said to them, it's just as important around the mental that you need as well. And so it's exciting. It spent 2 days with them and just watching what they got out of that and just the, one of the things that I always ask at the end of all my trainings is, what do you walk away? What are you going to do differently now? What do you walk away with? And hearing these, I had 20 the first time, and one of them saying, I'm getting a therapist. And I'm going, that's amazing, right? And another guy who's already in military, but he's now becoming a firefighter, he said, I think I've realized that it's okay not to be okay, and that vicarious trauma is something that I am going to be exposed to. It is going to happen, but it's what I do about it. It's how I prepare for it. It's being proactive. So it's not just waiting around for something to happen. It's we can do something about it too. And so it's so we're excited because we believe, and I believe, that if we can get access to all of these men and women in all of these careers that are exposed to these horrific things, if we can catch them before they even enter the field and prepare them as much as we can, they can retire feeling good, enjoying their retirement, and not need to be injured.
That's a big goal.
Yeah. It is a big goal.
Yeah, it is. Lots of obstacles on the way.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that they're not going to be, it's how we deal with the injury, obviously, right? And I think I recently had a paramedic in my private practice that had a recent diagnosis of post-traumatic stress injury, and she was beside herself. I said, it's not a death sentence. Like, this is, this sucks. And she knew there was something going on anyways, but now let's figure out how we can get you through this journey, right?
Okay. So I'm going to ask you specific questions about the peer support, because I know there's a lot of discussion around that. You know, the government's has organizations and committees looking at it and come to the conclusion that they're not going to actually do a standard, because it's perhaps challenging to do that, to get a college or organization to oversee it. So we'll go along that phase. So the peer support training that you offer, what does it consist of, and is it monitored in any way after people graduate?
This is a great question. And so we do a 4-day training plus an additional day for anyone who's starting a new team for the first time. Because then the additional day usually is, so how's this going to roll out? What's policies and procedures going to be? Who's going to be taking what role? But if they've already got that established, and we do 4 days, and it includes what is peer support, really all the nitty-gritties around that, and the importance of it around trust, and the whole theory behind and the foundation behind why peer support. We then do some work around crisis intervention and prevention. We do lots around suicide intervention and prevention. Resilience, communications is a big one, and self-care. We don't let them leave without a self-care plan. But then we follow them for a year after that, is that we continue to be in touch, usually every 2 months, or if they need more. So we continue to meet with the team around kind of things that are happening, what's going on, how are we doing, how are they charting things, how are they taking care of themselves. It's also giving them permission that there are going to be times that you might have to step back, and that's okay. So it's following that through, and we've had a lot of success. We have been doing a lot of peer support teams. We actually got a great contract in Nova Scotia with the Nova Scotia government, and have actually set up, I think we've done 7 with them, and then we ended up doing a train the trainer. So we trained 10 of their workers across the government who've now, it's our curriculum and it's monitored by us, but they now continue to develop peer support teams. So they've got teams across their government. And great things. So corrections was the first one that we went after. Obviously, we went into corrections. Sheriff's office are doing, coroner's office, which is amazing. We did the African Canadian Women's Network, which are all African women. So they're supporting any black women that are across the government that needs someone to reach out to. So we're about to probably undertake something with workers' comp in Halifax. They want a peer support team. We're also doing trauma training with them right now to try and help them understand the calls that they're getting and understand, they deal with a lot of psychological injury. So it's really appreciating when you're dealing with someone who's making a claim, how important it is and how we talk with them and help get them through it. So we are really branching in this area, and we have a lot of backing, and we're hoping to get into start doing more research around showing the evidence to what we're doing and how well we're doing. And we're actually about to launch, hopefully in the fall, the first one in a community college for paramedic students. We're going to roll out a peer support team there and see how that goes. We're going to pilot it and just see what happens, because yes, colleges have counseling, and it's actually the college that I work at, Centennial College, and they have counseling available for the students. But it's really, peer support is really about understanding, like having like-minded people around and understanding what someone's going through and the challenges. So, we're going to see what that looks like. And that doesn't mean counseling is going to be able to back up anything, right? And obviously a peer supporter is not a counselor anyways. They're just guiding someone and hopefully then helping empower them enough to get them moving on, getting some additional support. So
interesting. So when it's implemented within the college setting, that's when you will start to do your research? I mean, you're already doing posts.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, we're doing a lot anyways, but yes, we're hoping to do even more, because we want to show evidence that it is working, right? Yeah, that it's a good, and Centennial's excited because we're going to start with paramedic students, and they're like, oh, we have police foundations, we have child and youth, we have fire, right? They have lots of other, and we have nurses. So, yeah, and we'll see what happens.
I'm very much into peer support. I've been developing programs for that for a while.
Yeah.
Personally, I thought it'd be really kind of nice if there was a college overseeing, the same as with nurses and things like that. There's standards and all this type of thing, so that if somebody really doesn't have the skills or gets over involved with somebody, that there's boundary issues that somehow it can be addressed, but that's not happening. So I really appreciate the fact that you're starting to do some research on it to see whether or not your program, without any negative impact to you or to anybody who's developed it, that it's a well received. I have somebody who does a lot of training, and what was necessary, or he found was necessary, is that every presentation to a different profession had to be tweaked.
So that's then, and I'm glad you said that, because we customize all of our training. So regardless of where we go, is that we customize it based on that. And a good example is I've been doing tons of training with Clearwater Seafoods out in Nova Scotia, that are their captains and senior crewmates of these shipping vessels that go out to sea all the time, which is a horribly dangerous job. So we've been doing some mental health training with them, but that's for specific just for them, for their culture. And we do the same with peer support, because it's not just a generic thing, is that we got to understand the culture. We have to understand the themes and what goes on. I think there are different times that peer support gets challenged, and we had a recent call from one of our people that we trained, and the management level called because there was a breach in trust that happened, and like they're saying, hey, how do we deal with that? What do we do? And it's like, that's a big deal. As you know, trust can make or break a whole team. And so, looking at that, being able to talk about, they want to figure out kind of how should we deal with it. You got to take it seriously. And the rest of the service has to see that you're doing that, because you're backing it up. You're saying this isn't what we want to happen here. So it is. And I think you're right. We have to be accountable. We can't just do things for the sake of doing it. A lot of our work is evidence-based or evidence-informed for sure. We've done a lot of work with Nick Carlton from SIPCERT. In the earlier times, we get him to look at some of our materials. So, we want to really try and back it up. And our hope is that we've reached out to them also to say, hey, if you got a student that we can get some research done with to just around our other programs too, right? So
interesting. So you wouldn't be against partnering up with somebody else?
No. Gosh, no. And you know what? And that's the one thing that TEMA's really good at, is that we need to be working with like-minded organizations as well. There are so many of us out there. We're not so unique that we shouldn't be doing some joint work with other places all the time, without a doubt.
I totally agree. Invisible Wounds this year has really made a statement that what we are trying to achieve is a network amongst organizations that are like-minded, that want to collaborate, because they're, and so be it. There are some who are standalone kind of organizations.
Yeah.
And
well, they think they are. Or they think they should be. I don't know.
Okay, well, we won't really go there, but there are others that are more interested and more focused on the collaboration, thinking that there's enough people out there at this point in time that would benefit from the education, from the support. When we started it 10 years ago, it was like, we're going to stomp out stigma. Yeah, okay, well, we're still stomping out stigma. And that's terrible. And now with the sanctuary trauma, at least people are identifying it, but some of them are so angry with employers, seeing that that's the source of it. And granted, could be, but it also could be a perceptual thing, and trying to assist people with their feelings and thoughts around that within a peer support group, because a lot of times that's where they'll start venting. Yeah,
they do. And what we're finding more and more, Deborah, is that, York Region Paramedic Services is a good one. We've trained, I think, all of their team. I think they're almost up to 100 people now, but they've got 100 peer supporters. But, they also have lots of other things. Like when there's a crisis that happens within their organization, they've got CISM, they've got, certainly management always steps in and does some support. And then they've got this huge peer support team. And what we've really worked with them around is that it's not, historically it's been CISM that's the first thing that deals with the crisis, but more and more organizations are seeing it's what that person wants, what that person needs who's gone through that crisis, because we're not all the same. We don't all heal the same. We don't all heal, it's different times that we need it. And maybe I don't want to debrief right away because I'm still trying to get my head around what happened, but I want to talk to a peer. Like I want to maybe just run down, or we always want peer supporters to be proactive anyway. So we're always asking them to reach out, before anyone has even reached out. And so it's changing that culture. There's another team that they've really got their management on board with. Paramedics can call in sick and say, I shouldn't be working with someone today. It's not a good day for me. And so we don't have to lie about why we're off. We don't have to say, I got a cold, my back's out. It's like, it's not a good day for me. And so management, there's no questions about that. But if they call the next day and it's the same thing, it's like, still having a bad day, that's fine. But now you've got peer support's going to be reaching out to you. So they put that in place. So it's just here's a little link for you, right? That you can still have a mental health day, but we're going to just make sure that you're okay too, right? And so,
do you know which organization that
I
is?
do. It's Oxford County.
Okay.
So it's fabulous.
Yeah.
It's
and
fabulous.
it is, there's so many structural or organizational challenges. That's what I'm finding. And so, for example, some of the white shirts they have duties and rules and responsibilities that they have to do. That's their job, right? And then there's people who are working not beneath them, but who are their employees that they are supervising, who perceive that their actions create that sanctuary trauma, and then they get angry or agitated against that person. And sometimes I think if we can just have more white shirts at our conferences, which is starting to happen, and creating that awareness that they came up through the ranks and gained some experience, and yet they still have a job to do. And that's where you're saying, the peer support, if you've got it in there, that they can maybe be supportive around that.
We did peer support a year ago with York Region, built up their team, and I had asked that the chief come and say something towards the end of the 4 days. And so he came and he brought his whole team, his whole white shirt team. There were about 10 or 12 of them, and they all came to sanction it, to say we're so glad, and to give the message around what they were going to do around mental health and wellness. And so, and whether they can do it, like they can talk the talk, but they were walking it too. And I was really pleased that happened. And we've got there were the horrible wildfires last year in Nova Scotia area in 2 different communities, and one of the communities who had the largest fires ever, mostly all volunteer fire departments, right, which is horrible, and they don't tend to have these kinds of supports. They don't tend to have peer supports. So that community in that area has approached us around, we want a peer support team. So we applied for some funding jointly with them. So we're going to roll out a peer support team in that community. There's a few communities. We're going to do the same as what we do. We're going to have people nominated, and the community is stepping up and saying, we don't ever want to have to go through this again. And these are communities that a lot of their volunteer firefighters lost their own homes while they were fighting these fires. And so it's just awesome to see people step up and go. So this will be an interesting pilot also, because it's a new thing. It's not one organization, it's several coming together. And I've just had a conversation actually with close around the Oxford County, Woodstock area, that community, volunteer fire stations in that community are, there's about 6 or 8 of them that again want to maybe develop a peer support team, but do it as a collective, which more and more they're realizing enough. That's enough.
The other thing is that with urban, right, or with urban, you've got more individuals, more captains, all that kind of stuff. So you can do a debriefing and have them jump across this border and it'll all work out. If you got 6 stations, that works out. But in rural, you don't have that. And so I think what they're talking about is the mutual aid concept that they've already got in place. They're just going to utilize that, so they don't even have to reinvent anything, which I think is great insight on their part. Just train everybody so they can hodgepodge all over and support numerous people in different regions. That's great.
No, and I love that more and more they're all seeing the need to take care of each other. Right? So.
And I think they used to do it, but I think when they used to do it, a lot of times it was, at least with fire, they had the beer fridge at the hall and sit around and all that.
And then military had the Legion, and we all know how they've been dealing with and healing from their traumas.
But some of that wasn't necessarily all bad, because when they took it away, then they went to a restaurant and then they talk openly and people would be overhearing stuff.
Traumatized. Secondary trauma.
But the fact is that they're still talking, so they were trying the very best, utilizing whatever support they had. So good on them.
It's a strategy, right?
And I think the fact that the TEMA, as with other organizations, are really getting into the doing research. I know we had Stephen Jett. I don't know if you know him.
I don't.
He's got a program that's called Launch, and so he's with police, and you can look into it. But
I will.
It's all research based. They did the initial series and then all that to make sure that it's working, and it's being implemented here and there. So I think that's really important. Gives you credibility.
That's good. That is good. Well, and even the conference that you're going to be doing, I think, again, is so important we need to offer as much as we can for all these men and women to gather in a place, to feel connected, and again, to be able to walk away with something, some rich opportunity, right?
One of the things that was brought to my attention is, because sometimes I feel inadequate, because we're not a charity and we're not big and all this kind of stuff. But there was a conference recently by an organization, and there was a large number of people going. And somebody went to it and they said, but the difference with what you do is you all sit in one room, which we do, and it's very comfortable. It's very secure, and I've heard that this last year especially. I started hearing that over and over again. So initially I thought, I have to grow, it has to get bigger, I have to get more people, and now it's like, no, I don't think so. We'll just keep it.
We have to keep taking care of them, right, and to make sure.
And I think this is just one alternative way of doing it, instead of having big conferences and breakout groups and all that kind of stuff, which I think is great, but I can't do it, so.
And you don't need to do it either.
No,
right? That's the important thing. So.
But I like the fact that the collaboration is that you talked about.
Yeah.
And you're not alone. We had a speaker here this morning actually, and is reaching out and looking at doing that. So.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to do more of that. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We have to work together, and we can be stronger as we unite.
Absolutely. If anybody wants to find out more, you said you have a website?
Yep, so it's www.tema.foundation. And we've got a Squarespace, it's called, but there's a place where you can inquire about things and reach out. So we'd love to hear from people, and we're very quick at reaching out and figure out what we can do to help. I've just recently had a reach out from BC Fairies, who want some curriculum on mental health and wellness and the risks of what they have to deal with. And they do. I mean, I talked to the woman. They're on a ferry for 2-3 hours, and she said, we're dealing with everything and we have no support. So it's not like we can even call 911. If someone collapses and we have to do CPR, if someone, is there a domestic or anything. She said, if someone's attempting suicide, we do everything. And she said, and we're burning out.
Yeah,
So.
I've heard that about the larger leisurely ship lines too.
Yeah.
Since COVID, it's changed the whole kind of attitude of people, entitlement and assaults and that. So unfortunately, there's some negative things going on, but then there's all the positive with people.
Well, look at what our two organizations are doing too, right? So lots of positives.
Look, I'd like to thank you for driving all the way over and for taking.
It was a beautiful drive.
Oh, good.
It's well worth it.
Glad you enjoyed it.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks. Thank you.
Every day, first responders take on losing battles. Yet, you're still there to respond. Somewhere, a life is lost in the line of duty. You're still there on the front line. Care providers experience the unimaginable. You're still there to care. Families where you might not come back the same. Or at all. You're still there to help. The world is a dangerous place, and you always put others first. So this is our promise, to help fuel your courage. We have you in mind. The Tema Foundation, linking partners in mental health.
Asking for help, because so long in my service, over 40 years at that time, we were always giving help to other people and listening to their problems and solving their problems. And of course, coming from a culture of push on and put your head down and continue was not conducive to telling your own story. So once I was able to get through that and tell my story, it became much easier. But for many first responders, and particularly myself, that was the hardest thing, just asking for help, because we've always been told we can push through. For me, it was not understanding the process completely. It was a lot of unknowns, and the fear of the unknowns, particularly with me and other first responders, is pretty significant. And one of the things that I noticed, that the setting and everything at Ravensview was there to calm us down and to get to the root of the problems that we faced. Understanding my PTSD, that was one of my biggest challenges. And it came to me quite suddenly when I was in treatment my first week. We were asked to rewrite a traumatic episode in our lives. And I had served in the former Yugoslavia as a UN peacekeeper, as a member of the RCMP. And on the 21st of November, 1994, we were ordered to be evacuated from the town that we were stationed in. And I didn't know it at the time, but that had a profound effect on me, because the people in the town thought that the armed forces were coming in and going to kill them. And I'd always thought that PTSD came from an incident that actually occurred to one. And many years later, I found out that that incident, having to leave those people in fear for their lives, really had a dramatic impact on me. So much so that when I wrote about it in Ravensview, my 4th day into treatment, I had a flashback. I was right back in that Croatian village with those people crying and screaming and wanting help. So it came to me quite quickly and quite profoundly, but I'm glad it did. I can't answer for other first responders. I can answer for myself. First of all, we come from a culture of do it and help people even when there's danger. So when it's time for us to ask for help, it's very, very difficult to do. And the other thing is that we don't want to relive some of those memories. I know for myself, having to relive them was almost as bad as actually living through them the first time. I was successful in putting them away in my mind, and having to bring them out in the open was really difficult for me. But I was really fortunate that I had an excellent group of physicians, psychiatrists, and therapists to help me through that. And Ravensview provided me that ability to get down into what my issues were, particularly around PTSD. Started right away when I turned off the road and wound my way up to the top of the hill where Ravensview was situated. I actually stopped at the sign at the bottom at the road and wondered if I really truly needed this. I had a couple of minutes of reflection, and then I was determined to continue. So what's special about it? It's in its own place. It's at the top of a hill surrounded by a forest, and to the north is Victoria Airport and a very scenic Gulf Islands. So I'd say the setting is really, really important, and it sure helped me. The other thing is too that the campus, as I'd call it, of Ravensview, is more like a university setting than a hospital. We're treated like adults, and we are given lots of opportunity to discuss and go over some of the things that brought us to Ravensview. It's a very welcoming environment, and which includes all the staff, not only the medical staff, but also the cleaning staff and also the therapy staff. They are welcoming, and they are aware of some of the things that we've gone through and can help us with it.
Welcome. To begin, sit comfortably in a chair or lie on the floor. Place one hand on your stomach and the other hand on your chest. Gently close your eyes and bring your awareness to your breath. Take note of the pattern of movement of your two hands. As you breathe in and breathe out, does one hand move more than the other? a slow, deep breath in through your nose. Exhale fully through your mouth so that you feel your lower hand moving inwards. Relax your shoulders. Loosen your jaw. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Continue to breathe in deeply and exhale fully, focusing on your breath. As you inhale, focus on moving your hand outwards on your stomach. As you exhale, focus on moving your hand inwards on your stomach. Feel your lower back pressing into the back of your chair or towards the floor. When you're ready, slowly open your eyes. Take one last inhale in and exhale. Notice how you feel. Thank yourself for taking time out of your day to practice self-care.
Invisible Wounds will host events promoting mental wellness to first responders, their families, and civilians. To find out more, please visit our website at invisible-wounds.ca.